So hi everyone, welcome to this episode of Curious Golang. In this episode, we are going to see how Go favors composition over inheritance. We are going to see how Go enables composition via struct embedding, what is it and how to use it. We are also going to see why this approach makes the code more simpler, flexible and it just makes sense. So let's get right into it. So what is inheritance? Inheritance is basically a core property of object-oriented programming languages. It enables a child class to inherit properties and functions from the parent class. When it does that, it basically makes a tight coupling over the child class, and also you are basically making a is-a relationship. Let's see that with an example. Let's suppose you are having a class engine. It is having some properties and it is having a function, let's suppose a show. Okay. Now you want to have a car which needs to have an engine. So in terms of inheritance, what are you going to do? You are going to extend this engine class, which is basically going to make the car have all the properties of engine class. But while you do that, what are you basically telling the car class here? You are telling that car, you are an engine now. Basically, car is an engine. But is that semantically correct? No, it is not. Car is something which is going to be made up of a lot of things. It is going to have a lot of its own properties, and engine is going to be one of those properties. But car is itself not is an engine. So for an example, let's try to expand this example a little bit. If this engine was something like this, there was a combustion engine and there was a, let's suppose, an electric engine. In this case, what are you basically bound to do? You are basically bound to either extend car with the combustion engine, or you can extend it with an electric engine. But can you do both of them? No, you cannot. Also, when I say both, now I'm not meaning that you need to have both of the engines at the same time. I mean that, are you able to switch between them smoothly? No, you are not. You are basically making a tight coupling, and whenever you want to switch between them, you have to completely modify the car class. Is that, you can say, smooth or simple? No, it is not. We should be having this car such that we can switch between different kind of engines smoothly, and that is not what is inheritance going to provide us. That is something which Go resolves utilizing composition. That is something basically we are going to see in this further episode, that utilizing struct embedding, Go basically implements composition, and that is basically going to let you utilize different kind of engines without making much of a modification. So let's get right into it now. Before starting with this, let's try to see what composition is in a basic sense. Composition basically represents a hazard relationship. What it basically means is that whenever you are doing a composition, your child class, or in this case a child struct, is going to basically has a parent thing, or you can say is going to has properties of some else struct or a class. It is not going to be completely dependent on it. It is basically going to be loosely coupled to the parent class, you can say. So basically in this Golang, we don't have the concept of classes. Here it is a concept of structs. So we will see how struct embedding is going to enable composition here. So let's take an example now. So we are going to have an engine. Let's suppose it is having a show kind of. I'll tell you why we are doing this. Let's suppose there is a combustion engine. It is something having, let's suppose, a HP. So let's see this now. I have written this code and I'll try to explain this now. So what we are trying to do here, first of all, there is an engine interface. Why are we utilizing this? Because in a car, we want to tell what an engine looks like. An interface in Golang basically enables us to abstract the things, and it is basically going to tell us what an engine is basically going to look like. Any struct which is going to implement this kind of an interface is a type of this interface. For an example, this combustion engine, it is implementing the show function of this interface. This is basically meaning that wherever an engine interface is utilized, this combustion engine can be put as a value to it. Why? Because it implements the same function which this engine interface is trying to imply. Okay. Similarly, the electric one. Now, what I told you at the start, this is the struct embedding which is basically being done here. Your car struct is basically embedding an interface which is basically telling that any different engine which implements this interface is something which I can have as a property of mine, which car can have as an engine. So, for an example here, when I am making a car, I am putting the engine with a value of a combustion engine at one time. Another time I'm putting it is an electric engine. Why I'm able to do this? Because combustion engine is basically implementing the show property, the show function of this interface. Similarly, the electric engine is doing the same. For an example, if I did something like this, see here. Now this is not going to imply the properties. Now it is in the wrong way. Now combustion engine cannot be used. So the interface has to be completely implemented. So for example, like this, when we do that, we are basically doing a smooth transition between combustion or an electric engine. We don't have to modify the whole car and everything. We have to just utilize a different engine. It is so simple like that. Basically, this is how composition looks like. Basically, this is how struct embedding looks like. So now let's try to run this and see what struct embedding is basically enabling us to do. See here, the first time when the details was called, it basically printed first that what model this car is of. Then it delegated the show functionality to the engine which was embedded into it. It is not basically having the show property by itself. The show property is of engine and it is basically delegating to show it from the engine one. So the combustion said that it was combustion engine started with 10, which was basically here. And then when it was Tesla, the electric one, it was then delegated to this. So this is what struct embedding is. This is how composition enables to apply different kind of, you can say, classes or different kind of properties onto the same one without much, you can say, changing the code base. And this is how basically it is more simpler and flexible. So I hope you liked it. Do let me know if you want to see more of these kind of videos, and let's see you in the next video. Do like, comment, share and subscribe.